Hi, I'm Rachel and I'm the messy mom in the kitchen. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are going to be making chocolate peanut butter bites with a protein surprise. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe and get ready for some delicious and healthy recipe coming up. All right, the first thing we're gonna do is get started on our base. So we're gonna take our almond flour and put in 1.5 cups. I like to use my half measuring cup and just do 3 of those. 1, 2, 3. And you know, some people use a knife to level off. I put it in the bag and just put my hand and bring it up against that, because why get another utensil dirty unnecessarily? Next thing I am going to do is put in a tablespoon of my avocado oil. And then I'm going to use my 1/4 cup first for my unsweetened cocoa powder, and then for my maple syrup. Now here's the thing. When you're making things that are with chocolate and peanut butter, sure, you can use lots of sugar, you can just conveniently go buy it at the store. I happen to be allergic to a lot of the ones in the store because they usually contain dairy, and the refined sugar in it often gives me the ups and downs and sugar highs. I'm like, I don't need that. So maple syrup, while yes, still a sugar, is not as refined. And I remember when my kids were little, we read Curious George. And I remember that at the very back of Curious George Visits the Chocolate Factory, I might not be remembering that title exactly correctly, there are facts about maple syrup. And one of them, I believe, is about both how it's natural, but also about some of the minerals in it. So it definitely has some good things for you. So once I have these together, I'm going to process them so that they mix. Sometimes it forms one ball, and that's okay. You don't want it to be super like a dough, but you do want it to be well mixed. So here we go. When it starts to go from that crumble into that looking like a dough, that is when I know it is time to stop. Now, next thing I'm going to do is clear all of this away and set up my silicone baking cups, because even though this is a no-bake recipe, I like to use these so that it's well measured out. When the kids have these, they can just take it out of the fridge and freezer. I like mine frozen, but the kids like them a little softer. So either they'll put it in the refrigerator to defrost a little bit and soften, or sometimes they pop it in the microwave for a good 10 seconds. That's plenty. All right, now that we have the base, you saw that I put it in, and then I used my trick of a little bit of water with the spoon to flatten it out to make a nice base layer. Now we have to make the filling. So I'm gonna start with 1 package of Silken tofu. Now, let me tell you, the first time I thought about tofu in something sweet, I was like, not so sure about that. But as it turns out, something I learned is that silken tofu is often used in puddings as something to help make it creamy. So you can't just dump it in. I like to crumble it because that gives it a way to break it up better. Also, as I put my other ingredients into the food processor, they spread out a bit more. So the other thing I did while I was waiting is I put a cup of chocolate chips in a microwave safe dish and heated it up. I melted them, But the thing with chocolate in the microwave that you probably know is if you try to do a long time, it'll often burn. So I did it for 30 seconds at a time, and in total, it probably took about 2.5 minutes to get to a nice creamy consistency. Depending on the strength of your microwave, it may be longer or it may be shorter. All right, now that we have our package of tofu spread in here, I am going to start adding the rest of our ingredients. So we're gonna take a tablespoon of that unsweetened cocoa powder. Now I'm using that same tablespoon I had before that was a little wet for a tablespoon of vanilla. Now one of the things that I do in between is I rinse out the food processor because I'm not worried about cross-contamination of things. It doesn't need to take a while and it doesn't need to be, perfect. Next thing I am going to do is put in a 1/4 cup of my maple syrup. Now, depending on what kind of allergies or food sensitivities or dietary restrictions you have, that will depend on what kind of chocolate chips you use. So in our house, we always use non-dairy chocolate chips. So my 1 cup of chocolate chips are melted nicely. I'm gonna put that in. And then the last ingredient I have is peanut butter. Now I use a peanut butter that has, as its only 2 ingredients, salt and peanuts. So sometimes it separates, which means that I'm gonna need to give it a good stir before I measure it out. But I really like having ingredients that I know the names of, that I can, really look and see. All right, so now we're gonna give our peanut butter a stir. It was used recently, so it hasn't separated too much. I happen to have a 1/2 cup from before, so I'm just gonna fill this twice. Now, if you like to do cooking and baking with your kids, one of the side benefits is it's a great math lesson. I actually have these dish towels that I love that I pulled out recently. I bought them a long time ago. I don't know why they've been in the cabinet for so long, but they have measurements on there and measurement conversions, which I think is really cool. So instead of having to go online and pull up various conversions, we pull out the dish towel and then we see what is it that we need? How do we change it? Are we having a recipe? Are we doubling a recipe? Okay, that's our first 1/2 cup. Now we're gonna fill it again. And then once you have your filling all made, depends what you wanna do. You can just use a tablespoon to spread it evenly among the different baking cups. You can use a piping dish, not a piping dish, a piping bag if you wanna make it look nice. I think today I'm actually gonna try using my little scooper that I use when I make cookies or meatballs and see how that comes out. Because sometimes when I use the piping dish, some of the members of my household think that it has a funny look to it. So less appetizing and more other brown things, but it still tastes good. All right, so we've got that full cup of peanut butter in here now. And I'm gonna take, I love these silicone spatulas because they really help get all of your ingredients out. And I recently had to get a new set because the old set I had used so much that they were kind of popping through, and I guess the metal that's underneath them was coming through. So this, I want to make sure that it gets fully mixed. Looks like it's pretty well mixed, but I can see a little bit on the sides, so I'm gonna give it a little scrape along the sides. Also, sometimes things tend to get stuck right on top of the middle mixer, so. Looks creamy and ready, so here we go with filling. And so there we have it, our chocolate peanut butter tofu bites. So I hope you've enjoyed making them. Be sure to like, comment below, subscribe, and share this with everyone you know. And I look forward to seeing you again in my kitchen.